Well, we're here to tell you a bit about the blues and what makes it such an important music. And as Georgie Fame, who plays keyboards in Bill's band, the Rhythm Kings, once said, America's greatest art form. He's probably got a point. As Bill once said, without the blues there'd be no rock and roll. There's no rock music. It's that simple.
Well, I think all music came from the blues. The blues started when slaves came over from Africa, and they had to make their own instruments when they were on those when they were slaves working for the white people in the southern parts of the United States. And they kind of invented this music. They did it when they were working. They sang chants, didn't they? And invented a guitar and a banjo and all those things. And later the harmonica came into effect. But from that came the early music of the 1890s, ragtime, and then jazz in the beginnings of the 1900s, and then soul music later, gospel music, spirituals, rock and roll, which was the American, well, R&B, which was the American black man's pop music, really, and it went into rock and roll and everything else, boogie woogie, rockabilly, which was early Elvis Presley, Eddie Cochran, people like that, and Carl Perkins playing with 3 instruments, and then later into popular music. So I think without the blues music, which was like the trunk of the tree, really, wasn't it? Yeah. And the branches went off. Country music as well, of course, came from blues.
And of course the tree had its roots in Africa, because without the slaves coming over from Africa in the 17th century, that music would not have gone to America and developed into the blues. And it was, I think, in mid 17th century the first slaves went over. And by 1800 there were 1 million slaves and black people in America who basically come from Africa or been born since these slaves had been taken over. And that was what created this music all those years ago.
And why did they play the music? They didn't have a chance to play the music in the fields. All they did was holler, you know, hey, oh, and then they'll go, oh, and then they'd keep doing that as they worked. And when they worked on the railroads, they'd do those songs like, take this hammer, bam, play to the captain, bam, take this hammer, bam, you know, and they got $1 a day or something working on the railroad.
That was the foreman.
And they got together like once a week, working on the plantations. They'd get together on a Saturday night or something, and they'd have a log cabin and then make fake sort of bench where they could drink and all that, like a bar, and usually made from fruit boxes and things like that, wasn't it? And then they'd get together once a week just for a couple of hours, and some of the local musicians would come in and they'd dance around and play music and that kind of thing, and just enjoy themselves for an hour or an hour or two, and then back to their really mundane lives, because it was a very, very tough time for them. And they'd use anybody that could play anything, piano player, a guitarist, a trumpet player, sometimes. It was a complete mixture. Sometimes you had songs recorded with just piano and a trumpet. Yeah. Bizarre.
And just like on the start of the film there, where the guy had put the bits of inner tubing around the nail and banged it into the barn door.
Just to show, that is a true story about how the great blues artist John Lee Hooker first learned to play when he was 7 or 8 years old. His grandfather did that, so we used that idea.
And they used to do it with a bit of old baling wire and put it on a bit of wood and kind of make a sort of a guitar, because nobody had the money to go and buy instruments.
And John Lee Hooker, after that, when he became in his early teens, he had to make an instrument to earn some money on street corners. He got a cigar box, he got a broom handle, and he went to the local tip and he found some old piano wires and made himself a guitar. And there's a few of the great guitar players that started like that, just inventing their own instruments. So they really wanted to do it, and that's why they did it. I mean, if you want something bad enough, you'll do anything to achieve it, and that's what they did.
And then, before long, people actually started to make a bit of a living out of music. And one of the first people was this guy, Papa Charlie Jackson. We're going to play you odd bits
No, let's just tell him what.
Okay, you tell.
He came from ragtime area. You know, we're talking about the very early 1900s, 1920, 1980. He was the first blues or black artist that was ever recorded in 1923. Papa Lordy Blues was the name of the song. And he was very important because he taught a very great guitarist called Big Bill Brunsey how to play guitar. Although he played banjo, but he played it in a guitar tuning, which is quite different. And he played with a lot of famous singers in the 20s and 30s. So he's quite important. And a lot of his songs are carried forward later by other people, bits of them, and became very, very prominent songs in the 50s and 60s when blues was very, very popular.
He's called Papa Charlie because he was 40 when he recorded. So that was, in those days, 40 was knocking on a bit. Well, probably to you, 40 is knocking on a bit now. But to us, it seems really pretty young. This is a song called All I Want Is a Spoonful. And with a lot of these recordings, they're very scratchy. Because they recorded in the 1920s. But it does give you an idea of what it's like.
He had quite a sweet little voice as well.
The most important female blues singer. She was called the Empress of the Blues. And
the 20s and 30s, yeah. Some of her records sold 500,000 copies. And she never got paid a penny. They never paid royalties in those days. She usually got like a few $100s, which was a lot of money for each song, and then went away happy and toured and made money touring, like bands do now. And all the money that was earned from the records went to other people, and she never ever got paid any record royalties or anything, which was shameful. And she wrote a lot of very great songs, which are still played today.
Yeah, this is one that's it would have been something, but it just changed itself there. It's called Nobody Knows When You're Down and Out.
And it's still played, I think.
Yeah.
We're hoping that you ask questions later. Backwards and all that, and when people saw Jimi Hendrix do it in the 60s, they thought, wow, fantastic, no one's ever done this before. People have been doing it since the 20s. You know, so no idea in music is ever new. It's just adapted for what's happening today, or there today. And he was extraordinary. And there were two little boys that used to sit with him and watch him, who were working on the plantations. And they became two of the greatest blues artists ever. Does anybody know much about blues here? Or is it all new to you? Come on, talk.
Mostly new?
So, very few of you know about it, right?